You give something, a part of yourself, a part of your soul, your love, your work, your knowledge, your experience. That, for me, is true service. And it's about volunteering. It's when you give everything for free. And for us, every person who does good in this world, or helps, or gives a piece of their soul, they are already an important person, a true minister of kindness. There must be some meaning, every single step you take, and even business must have a purpose.
Hello, everyone. It's Volunteer About Volunteers back on the air, and today our guest is Katya from the Ministry of Good Deeds. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, let's talk a bit about the foundation. But first, about you.
My name is Kateryna Hashko. I am the co-founder and head of the charitable organization, Charitable Foundation Ministry of Good Deeds, from the city of Kamyanske, Dnipropetrovsk region. The foundation has been around for 8 years unofficially, but officially it's been 4. It all began as a volunteer initiative involving trips to orphanages, providing support to large families, and assisting lonely, elderly individuals. And then we decided that there were already quite a few of us, with so many plans and ideas, so we decided to create an organization. It's me and my colleague Svetlana Ponomarenko. We are those two crazy girls who founded the organization and have been working ever since.
So, how did it all begin? You all got together and were like, we want to help. And then you just went to an orphanage? Or was it something else?
The Ministry of Good Deeds was started by Sveta. I wasn't around then. It was a volunteer initiative group, roughly 20 people. These were people from various professions, from business, cosmetologists, hairdressers, teachers, and other business folks. And each person, if it was a visit to an orphanage, would bring something of their own or offer a service. For instance, the girls would paint faces, cut the children's hair, and organize all sorts of really cool activities. It wasn't just about bringing toys and sweets, but it was truly, a wonderful, engaging event. And at one of these gatherings, Svetlana was telling me, they were all sitting there on the floor, with so many children and adults. And the children were sitting with such wide open eyes, like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And who are you, really? I mean, who exactly are you? You're such truly wonderful people. And Sveta says, we are ministers of good deeds. And for me, generally, the ministers of good deeds are about people, about important people. Because for all of us, a ministry or ministers are these important people who do very important things somewhere up there. For us, every person who does something good in this world, or who offers help, or who gives a piece of their soul, is already a truly important individual. They are already a minister of this goodness. That is how our foundation began. Then I joined this initiative, and together we helped many families. Families who found themselves in such difficult life situations and faced the risk of losing their children reached out to us. Mothers would contact us, seeking our assistance. And this was various kinds of help. It included clothes, various educational books, and also some school stationery treatment. Just to come, clean up, and make an apartment or a house suitable. Adapt this home so that children can live there.
So, how did it all unfold? Did you receive any application? Were you contacted by phone?
Yes. And then, either a neighbor would call us, or this mother would tell me, saying, you were recommended, please, help me. Social services had come to me. They gave me 2 or 3 months' time to somehow change my life. And for the most part, these were families where they truly didn't drink, didn't use any prohibited substances. It's just how circumstances unfolded. Either the father passed away, or they were laid off from work and simply had no money to pay for electricity or to buy basic necessities. And so, as a large volunteer group, we would simply come and do everything that was within our capabilities. I remember I had just given birth to my child, Dovira, who was only 6 months old at the time. and I would take my little one to my mother and my sister Sveta. And we also had 5 other girls with us there. We used to visit this house quite often. There was a family living there, with a mother named Tanya, and we would thoroughly clean her entire home, putting up new wallpaper, washing every single thing, and scrubbing it all spotless, all to prevent her children from being taken away.
And do you have an answer as to why you needed this?
I am still searching for it. Why do I need this, you might ask? Generally, people who come to charity and volunteer work, they each come with their own specific personal request, and I definitely have one myself.
Let's talk about volunteering. What does volunteering represent for you? Why do you do this? What personal benefit do you derive from it?
It seems to me that I have a tremendous amount of love inside me, which I absolutely, without a doubt, need to share with someone. I come from a large family. There are 3 of us. We lived, well, quite poorly. I can't say it was bad, but yes, quite poorly, because our parents worked at the city's businesses. And there were years when salaries weren't paid for 7, even 8 months. So there was no money at all. But we were a sufficiently happy family, always supporting one another. And somehow from that moment, this whole thing began. That I also have to help someone else. I remember how difficult my childhood was, how there were no clothes, no toys, no sweets. And I remember that feeling. And when I see families like these, it makes me realize that right now, I already have all of this and even more. I absolutely must share this, and not just share it like, here you go, look at me, I'm so great for showing up. And we always have conversations with these children. I always make sure to explain to them that if things get difficult, you can always ask for assistance. You can reach out to people who will serve as your guiding light throughout your entire life. Look at me. I'm also from a poor family, a large family with many children. We faced many hardships, but we always held on to our dreams. All of us had goals. We studied quite well, supported our parents, and truly believed that we would have a good future. So these were our principles. Well, of course, I read a great deal when I was a child, and that really helped me to somehow persevere and truly see some meaningful goals in my life. And this is something we also, not exactly teach, but rather provide advice and guidance to the families we support and to the children we assist.
How many families are currently under your patronage service? Is there any statistics? Do you somehow close it as a project? I apologize for saying it's like a project. A case, a project. A family reached out to you, you helped them. What's next?
Well, you see, as things stand right now, with the full-scale invasion having truly begun, our focus is on IDPs, meaning people who have relocated to our city. Many families, especially large ones, have either left or are in family-type homes that we support. There are about 10 of them, spread across the entire region. We have a home in Marhanets. Generally, the Marhanets community is one of the priority communities for our foundation. We are with them, and we are helping them.
And why is that?
About 2 years ago, we went there for the very first time, bringing these really big boxes of humanitarian assistance. We got to know the local volunteers, and somehow we've been cooperating with them ever since. And then, after the Kakovka Dam was destroyed, they have villages right on the bank. It's called the coastal line. There's Dobra Nadia, Ilinka. And mostly elderly people remain there because they have their vegetable gardens, their pigs, and their goats. No, you simply cannot abandon that. And they realized that they had absolutely nowhere to go, and they simply had to stay there. There was no water, no electricity, the store wasn't open. It was enough just to go to Marhanets. There, even though it's a few kilometers to drive, but
It's quite dangerous.
it was dangerous. And so we traveled there and found a family-type orphanage with 17 children. Their house was hit. The roof was slightly damaged. Then they moved to Verkhnodneprovsk. We went to them there and also helped them. We supported them both morally and psychologically and brought basic necessities they needed for that period. And in Kamyanske, we have 7 family-type children's homes with whom we constantly communicate. We had a very cool project with a business concerning these homes. It's the Marshall Gas Station Network, a Kharkiv-based network. The owner provides significant support to both the military and the humanitarian sector. We approached him with a proposal for fostering the creative talents of orphaned children. They drew pictures before the new year. There was a small competition, and the very best drawings were selected to be featured on the annual calendar, which is sold across the entire network of Marshall gas stations. Then, Marshall gave such wonderful gifts to the most active participants. Actually, they gave them to everyone, to all the homes, and they are just so inspired there. There were such cool creative kits for art and drawing, and the kids drew how they see Ukraine's future. It was such a truly exceptional project where we saw just how creative our children are and how wonderful their dreams for the future truly are. Some envision us in NATO, others see us in some kind of futuristic, in a country with flying saucers. Well, it was really great. The drawings were so cool. It was such a fantastic project. This was all about supporting orphans. At present, we also offer educational initiatives specifically designed for orphaned children and those who are internally displaced. We conduct a wide range of activities focusing on financial literacy, mental well-being, and addressing issues like bullying. When we first embarked on this project, we initially believed that there were already plenty of resources available and that these topics were already being covered in schools. And at every event, they talk about it. But they realized, no, that's not enough for them. They need to communicate their feelings, to talk about their own thoughts, about what's truly bothering them right now. They genuinely ask how to communicate effectively with their peers, how to find the right approach, for example, to a girl or to a friend. And we've actually taken a very extensive course in this particular direction, and we want to continue developing.
Is this individual or are these some group sessions?
No, this was a proper group educational course that we had, lasting for 3 months. We would meet up every single Saturday. It was specifically designed for teenage girls. All these kinds of important topics were addressed there. Among the subjects covered were sexual literacy, financial literacy, emotional intelligence, and mental health. Protection of your personal rights.
This is for IDP children, isn't it?
Here, the majority of the children were orphans. They came specifically from these family-type children's homes. There were also children of military personnel, as well as those of internally displaced persons.
How do children making contact with others now?
When we were first starting this project, we were a little bit apprehensive because, it's quite challenging to work with teenagers. They are, a little bit reserved, especially nowadays, wouldn't you agree? But after the second one, well, perhaps we put together such a great team. We truly had experienced psychologists and a mediator, and we ourselves constantly, before every single meeting, spoke with them as equals. Right? We explained, we told them about our history, we told them about our family. Our female volunteers were sharing personal stories about themselves. Here, we had quite a warm and friendly atmosphere, where we truly opened up and shared those deeply personal, feminine, and often painful things that concern us, or perhaps things that trouble them, but they might not be able to discuss within their own families, for example. We really liked this project and understood that we must work with teenagers. And exactly in these ways, deeply analyze with them their thoughts, their worries, and the emotions they feel. Because there are military families. And Mom, in this story, she's quite concerned about the father, about her husband. She's, in a sense, right there with him, in her thoughts. And all her actions, they are focused solely on supporting her husband. And sometimes, they don't pay attention to these children. They are also very deeply experiencing this separation from their father, and this whole story that's happening here.
Yes, I was completely engrossed. I could just imagine how it all happens, everything. That's absolutely amazing. And you mentioned that you had a fund, it's 8 years old, but officially it's been operating for 4 years. So, what exactly else is included in the responsibilities of the foundation itself? I mean, what are the main areas of focus? You provide aid for children and for internally displaced persons.
It's the main one, yes, the main one. Before the war, our primary focus was on orphaned children and those from particularly vulnerable backgrounds. Then, the full-scale invasion and war began. We managed to open a humanitarian hub, perhaps about a week later, right within our existing office space. I had a personal office with my husband. We ran an online store, and he also had his own company. All closed down because of the war. And, it's a really excellent space, an office. So let's establish a humanitarian hub right there. Because the very first humanitarian aid package arrived for us only after a full week. It was from my sister. People from Germany reached out to her because she is from Ukraine. Just various individuals from... The neighbors are German. And could you pass it on? I mean, are you able to deliver it? And she replied, yes, I can. She then called my Anya, knowing that my sister also works for a charitable foundation. And literally, within just a few days, we managed to find a large vehicle that brought us our very first humanitarian aid shipment.
This was a hub for the distribution of humanitarian aid. Were people able to reach out to psychologists?
No. Initially, for the entire first year of the war, our charitable foundation was solely dedicated to providing humanitarian assistance. Because you see, that was the very first thing people came to us for and requested. These included essential items, medications, hygiene supplies, and food products. Everything that everyone else needed. Things like pillows, blankets, and all sorts of similar items. And somewhere towards the end of 2022, of course, when humanitarian aid had already started to diminish, we realized that it was becoming less and less. And generally, people needed to be brought back to their senses, if you can say so, right? We need to explain to them somewhat that humanitarian aid is great. It can solve some of your problems, but you need to keep going, grow, find a job, communicate with people, socialize, join the community, and talk to other people. And we realized that this is very hard for them. They are very much closed off. They don't allow anyone to get close to them. And as much as this might sound like a cliché right now, they genuinely required some kind of psychological assistance. Adults are not very eager to attend any kind of psychological activities, and we came to understand that we need to work through the children. Because I, as a mother, understand that all the changes in my life happen solely and exclusively because of my child. If I want happiness for my child, I will definitely do something about myself. And so the first sort of psychological activities began, and that included things like art therapy, some master classes with the children. But the mothers, meanwhile, sat in the corridor, waiting for them. And we realized that they were our target audience, so we just started inviting them. Why are you sitting here? Come join us in the next room. And we have a great psychologist over there, and we'll do some activities. We'll have a good conversation. And this whole idea really took off. It truly gained momentum. We have a very experienced psychologist, Marina. It's also a very interesting story. She initially came to us as a beneficiary, seeking assistance. She herself is originally from Rubizhne. She had left with only a single sports bag, as if she were just going to the gym. And she was one of our beneficiaries, someone who had been receiving humanitarian assistance from us. And then she eventually came to work for us as a psychologist.
Is this particular hub still operating at present?
Yes, it is. We have created a space, which is named Dovira. Here we have 2 professional psychologists, an experienced art therapist, and a dedicated child educator. Because we discovered that a significant number of children who were evacuating, since our city is on the front line, and our entire region, mostly came to us from the Luhansk and Donetsk areas. And these were people who, mostly, stayed in their basements until the very last moment, with their children. And we came to understand that many children had truly lost this vital educational connection, yes, with their schools, because it wasn't always possible for them to get online. I mean, what kind of internet connection could there be if sometimes there was no power at all? So, we had a children's educator working with us, who specifically focuses on addressing learning loss, yes, providing lessons. Our school preparation program is truly exceptional. We have a dedicated speech therapist and a defectologist, because we've also come to understand that during the war, a significant number of children simply began to fall silent. Even those children who were speaking clearly at 3, 4, or 5 years old, they simply began to stutter. And, well, this was something we also had to work on, because the children were very shy. They would withdraw, not wanting to communicate with other kids, even because of this. We also have children with various special educational needs, and they receive support from both a speech therapist and a psychologist working closely together. And now, we've launched a truly wonderful new program, specifically designed for adults. This means we've been able to reach out and support these mothers who are in need of assistance. And our schedule is so incredibly packed that they even write that they wake up and they fall asleep with their phones. They are eagerly awaiting our announcements, because our workshops and our art brunches are truly amazing. So every Saturday morning, precisely at 10 o'clock, we hold an art brunch where mothers arrive, and their morning truly kicks off with such a fantastic community, you see, where they can immediately connect and engage with one another, all within a supportive, you might say, psychological framework. This is also a very positive initiative. One of our, so to speak, participants from this psychological community, Olya, was a mother of many children. She had just given birth to her third child, and things were incredibly difficult. The war, 3 young children. She was emotionally exhausted. She didn't know at all who they were, or what she truly wanted to do with her life. And it seems she has children and a husband, but something is missing just for herself. And so, she started attending our psychological trainings and workshops, and the story of Marina, our psychologist, truly inspired her. Now, Olya is also finishing university to become a speech therapist and works with us in our organization. And for me, these are truly such incredible examples. It's like, with just a little bit of our own support, you know? Perhaps we offered humanitarian aid, perhaps we gave some encouragement, perhaps we hugged, perhaps we simply had a conversation, right? We inspire other people to continue helping further, even because of this. This is indeed a genuine chain of goodness.
Before the podcast, we managed to talk for a few minutes, and we touched upon a topic like both charity and volunteering. Before the war, for most people, these two things seemed like a single concept. But now we understand that volunteering means you don't receive anything. You simply give, while charity is more like a job. In your life, there's a significant component of both volunteering and charity. If you can, we've already discussed volunteering a little, but I'd really like to hear more about charity. As a specialist, what can you tell me about this?
Well, after the first year of the war, everything we were doing was genuinely volunteer work. And even before that, it had always been the case. And then, I remember, once we understood that we really needed to develop, to grow our foundation, we started to learn a lot. Personally, I went through, well, probably dozens of different trainings there, on organizational structure, on attracting grants. In general, what a grant was. I didn't know what it was at all, how someone could give you money for free. I understood that this was one of the ways to remain, as it were, a cohesive organization, to preserve your volunteers or your people who want to help. Currently, we still have a large core of people who came here with me, 8 years ago or 4 years ago. They are working. Even for me, this isn't work. It's more like serving people. You give something, you give your time. You are giving a piece of yourself, a piece of your very soul, your love, your hard work, your knowledge, your experience. For me, this is truly a service. And this is about volunteering. It's when you give all of this for free, but 100% you get something, back. It's energy, it's a sense of gratitude, a feeling, of being part of something great, something monumental. Especially during the war, this feeling, it is greatly intensified in everyone, right? I always say that. I always remember, my, grandmother, she lived through the war, and every single 9th of May, she would sit there. She had so many different medals and awards, and she would tell us all about it. She was part of a medical battalion, providing aid to the soldiers. And she told us this, and we sat there, so proud. There were many of us, nieces, in the family. So, a whole lot of children sat there, listening to Grandma, and we were proud that Grandma went through the war. This understanding of she went through it, meaning she remained alive, and she carried, well, all of this experience with her. And I always say that I also picture myself as a grandmother. Of course, not for medals. But now with the experience, yes, who will be able to say that I, too, have been through the war? And I did the absolute maximum of what I was able to do at that very moment. Therefore, returning to your question, for me, my activity is more about volunteering, more about giving something away for free, and giving of myself without charge. But for an organization to truly function as an organization, and not just be some kind of informal group, you know? It's like any business, you need to have an accountant, a lawyer, some physical premises. In other words, there needs to be some form of dedicated resource. And that resource is definitely not going to be free. If, for the initial few years, this essential resource was being covered and paid for.
With a great deal of enthusiasm.
Strictly from our own, so to speak, personal financial resources. Some friends, some people. You know, you can't really call them partners. They're simply friends. Yes, some people would just come and give money. And I always want to emphasize that all our fundraising efforts, whether it's for supporting our guys or for any humanitarian projects, we never ever take a percentage for ourselves from those donations. So, even though as an organization, we do have the right, you know, to take, let's say, 20% for our development, we haven't taken a single kopeck from any donation. Because I just don't understand how I could possibly take 10 hryvnias out of 100 from some grandmother who, I don't know, donates for the military or gives for a child's toy. But money was essential, meaning we needed to continue our growth and development. And so, we began to educate ourselves and actively attract international partners, who then started to invest in various projects based on our innovative ideas. Basically, everything we were doing for free, but then we started getting paid for it. And, of course, specialists now, like a speech therapist, a psychologist, an accountant, rent for the space, some electronic devices that we need, yes, for the development of our hub. For all of this, money was given, money was provided. And, you see, this is already about charitable assistance, about charity, but the kind that is sustained through the attraction of these sorts of grant funds, or, you know, individuals who genuinely wish to support our organization.
That's interesting, all right? I've heard enough. You know, I've kind of made my own final point. Yes. And I heard exactly what I wanted to hear. And everything is correct. Like in Tetris, everything fell into place. And if we were to compare, if we had such an opportunity to compare the 22nd and 25th year, what would be the difference? I understand that in 2022, there was a significant uplift in our spirits, a much stronger drive for cooperation and mutual assistance. By 2025, speaking for myself, I wouldn't say we're exactly tired. I don't particularly like that specific phrasing, but we have certainly changed a little. What's your perspective on this?
Well, the fact that we've definitely changed, that's 100% certain. I haven't gotten tired. There was a period of rethinking. Well, just so you understand, I'm currently living in Dnipro. My family and I, we moved to Dnipro just 3 months before the war started. You know, we bought a house and just began to settle down and live our lives.
So you're telling me you bought a house even before it all began?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, because, you know, the thing is,
And for the registration of the charity fund, just in case.
Yes, so we should talk about this too. When you say I'm a volunteer, but then you have a car, an iPhone, and all that. Well, it's clear you get it from donations, all the rest. That's why.
Well, our family is quite a decent one, my husband and I. We are both gainfully employed. We possess our own independent sources of income. And this has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on any charitable organization.
And it's right that you're bringing that up?
On the contrary, all the money that I earn, honestly, yes, I invest it in the development of my organization, because I truly believe in it. I understand that, of course, I will never get it back, but I fully comprehend why I am doing this. And thank God, I have a husband who understands this. And I can't say that he directly stands.
Delighted, right?
He stands by it, he approves of it, and he supports it. but he doesn't interfere. In fact, at certain moments, he helps, and he helps a great deal. That's why we came to Dnipro, and when the war began, naturally, to the humanitarian hub, and the office in Kamyanska, as it were, and everything else in Kamyanska. We haven't quite settled in here yet, and so I traveled 3 times a week, meaning every other day I went to Kamyanska, back and forth. And by evening, thankfully, the husband was with the child, or the parents were with the child, because the kindergarten had started operating. And so, in this rhythm, we worked for about 8 months. My girls came almost every single day, to the office. And at some point, we realized that we were becoming somewhat aggressive towards people, and we were getting quite irritated. Of course, people are different, and situations are different. But when I reflected on it a couple of times, that the atmosphere in the team isn't great anymore, and I understand why. Because we're truly exhausted, we're tired of constantly being under pressure. Where to get humanitarian aid from, and where to get money for it. And my phone is ringing off the hook, and everyone wants something. So we gathered with the team and had a conversation about the necessity of slowing our operations down a bit. And, IDPs will continue to arrive every single day. Everyone always needs something, you know? But we only have ourselves, as they teach us in all the training sessions. You must put on your own oxygen mask first, right? So we kind of took a breath and distributed responsibilities in such a way that I started not going every single day, not even every other day. Now I come to the hub like 2 or 3 times a week, and that's perfectly fine for me. The girls are also part of this. We have a schedule, and everything has already been carefully allocated, and it all genuinely proceeds with a lot of satisfaction. So, the year 2022, it was quite an eventful one. But what was it that I didn't like? Even though everything was done with great enthusiasm, it all felt somewhat chaotic, you know? It wasn't really structured at all. We spent a lot of energy on things we didn't need to, just doing something because it had to be done. And now you ask yourself, was it really necessary to do it that way? Well, of course, we did it because it had to be done. But for me, the year 2025 is already a year of, as they say, awareness. He's already much calmer now. However, if we compare the sheer volume of our work, he hasn't changed all that much. And this is thanks to, of course, the training and the understanding of how we need to develop and in what direction we should be heading. We have several large projects that essentially provide this volume, this amount of work. Our humanitarian hub is still operating, meaning people who have relocated still turn to us. We provide assistance on a one-time basis. There is no systematic arrangement where people can come to us every single week to collect humanitarian aid. Naturally, this policy does not, as it were, apply to particularly vulnerable categories of people. For instance, if they are individuals with disabilities, or if it's a large family, etc. For these groups, of course, we extend our help for a second, and even a third time. We have a mobile team, you know, that travels all around the city. Of course, based on specific requests. Yes, made in advance. We have a psychologist and a medical nurse working here. We provide assistance to vulnerable categories of people. This is done on a permanent, ongoing basis. Our humanitarian hub also operates 3 times a week. You can reach out to us, after pre-registering in our group, to receive either hygiene products, food assistance, or items like pillows and blankets. We continue to work on all of this. We still have partners, Ukrainian partners, who continue to understand that basic needs must be met. Because with just psychology or art therapy, or some crafts, well, we won't be able to help them. It all needs to be a comprehensive approach. So, currently, a humanitarian hub is operating, and a psycho-emotional space is also functioning. A mobile brigade is also active. Additionally, we have another really excellent program. This is a practical training course on writing grant applications for businesses. Because we realize that many people who relocate, they've already burned out after a couple of years of life there, in Kamyansky or the region, and they're already looking around and thinking, I want to do something. Either open a business or even finish courses, I don't know, for manicure, cosmetologist. But all of that also requires money. And so we're training people who want to launch, well, to put it rather grandly, a business, but, something along those lines.
You could certainly say this is a business. I know girls who are making incredible fortunes.
Yes. Well, to work for themselves, some kind of their own business. Or they want to relocate their business. They had something there, in the occupied territory. Now they want to restore it.
Do you provide a specialist? Or does a person come and say, I want to be an accountant? And you find a specialist who teaches.
We teach how to write grant applications. Currently, there are many grants available for businesses, for starting your own venture. There are so many, people get confused. Especially people like me, who once had no idea what grant funding was, or what it even meant.
And then there's bureaucracy, all these documents. It's just a nightmare.
Yes. And so, for those individuals who possess absolutely no knowledge regarding these grant funds, how to properly submit an application, or even how to effectively create a business model, to develop, as we say, to write your idea on a napkin and then submit it. We conduct this training online throughout all of Ukraine. We are currently completing the 4th wave of this particular training program. This is specifically designed for IDPs who have been forced to relocate from key areas, including Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kharkiv, and Kherson regions.
Is there any feedback on these courses?
Yes! Why is it happening to me? I am truly proud of this project because our very first participants have successfully received grant funding through the assistance of this valuable training program. Because our specialist, she, by the way, is an internally displaced person from Bakhmut herself, and she's been through this since 2014, having moved from Donetsk. So, she herself has traversed this significant journey of relocation, displacement, and ultimately finding her own way in life. She has launched several businesses, and she advises many companies. She is our mentor, guiding these individuals from start to finish. That is, she consults them. Constantly, we have training webinars and then separate individual consultations. And some participants have already received grant funding, some for equipment, some for purchasing products, and they're already starting to work. And I'm truly very proud of this.
That's absolutely fantastic. And looking ahead, are there any specific plans for its continued growth and development?
Well, we've certainly got a whole lot of plans.
Come on now. What can you tell us that would make it a real mystery?
Well, I don't want to talk directly about our projects, because they've already submitted them, and we're waiting, for feedback. Yes. The only thing is that we're currently looking into social entrepreneurship. We're not just looking, we're already learning how to create it, because we understand that.
Can I just tell you something? We are the only country in the entire world where social entrepreneurship is not legally protected. We don't even have such a concept at all.
Here we are in this.
Check this out.
Yes, we've started to delve into this matter. Why a social enterprise, you ask? Well, because for the sustainable development of any organization, it's essential to constantly attract funds from somewhere. Simply relying on some donors. Well, truly, they might be here today, but then they're gone tomorrow.
Not lasting.
Yes, this is quite an inconsistent thing. And to constantly ask people for support, that's not quite the right approach for us. Of course, we will continue to support certain projects, some social ones, where we will feel that people have a genuine impulse, right, to help out. We certainly will. We will be working with businesses, but we also want to ensure the sustainability of our organization through this. And there are many great examples where this social enterprise model thrives. In general, it seems to me, when a person decides to open a business, they also need to ask themselves, what can this business truly offer to other people? So for me, the very concept, the very idea, is that this business should carry some kind of mission for people, not merely be about making money. This is a really great story. Of course, we're all concerned with money. We all want to eat. We all want to dress ourselves. That's all perfectly normal. And we should declare this openly, without any shame. But there really should be some kind of meaning. Every single one of your steps, and even your business, must be filled with some kind of purpose.
You know, people with disabilities, and I just have a connection to this community. They have a very good saying, don't do for us without us. And many female entrepreneurs reached out to us who told us, we want to create something special for you so that you could live a much better life. And we say, but we already have this kind of thing, you know? And it's truly wonderful that you understand this core idea, that it needs to be done for a specific purpose. Not just to tick a box, or for money, we understand that. Or so I can say, I'm great, I did both this and that. It's a truly great idea that you understand this is something needed by others.
Because we still adopt the experience of other countries. And abroad, this is a normal practice, a completely normal practice. I want this story about volunteering, as you asked at the start, not to die down when the war ends. Because I see how many organizations are closing now, for various reasons. Some lack funding, others lack motivation.
Or it's no longer relevant. People don't know where to go.
They don't know. They seem to want to continue helping, to keep on serving, and to somehow support people, but they just don't know how. So I urge all organizations, all volunteers, who encounter such thoughts, develop, educate. Today, there are many different platforms, both free and paid, that truly provide training. If in the first year of the war you weren't taught anything at all, then the real question was simply survival. How you did it didn't matter, whether right or wrong. Those documents, some kind of cargo clearance, it was unimportant. Now, our state, as it were, pushes us to ensure that everything must be done and processed properly. And generally, every single step you take should be accompanied by the thought, why exactly am I doing this? Not just a simple, let's run and quickly do something. Instead, why am I actually doing this, and what will be the consequence? I always tell my entire team this. What exactly will we be doing once the war has finally ended? What comes next?
And what's going to happen next? What do they answer?
Listen, many people have a lot of ideas, truly. And it's wonderful when there are ideas for creating various kinds of diverse activities as well. We help the guys and understand that we need to create some veteran-focused initiatives, be it for business or rehabilitation. Yes, many are already doing this now, aren't they? But don't forget how many of them will come. And, you know, 1 or 2 organizations per city just won't be able to handle all of it. We also need to work with families. There are children. There are wives, with whom we also need to work. We also need to prepare them for the fact that the father will return, and he will come back traumatized. That's why there are so many different ideas.
Personally, from yourself. Not the team's general view, but your own personal opinion. After victory, what should we focus on, and what should we do? What's your personal advice?
I would be looking at the development of certain types of business skills for people. That is, so that a person could provide for themselves. There are many fields now, IT, SMM, and self-growth. Even blogging, teaching kids how to make money. But not just making silly faces on camera, but truly approaching it with wisdom. What can you do? How can you express yourself in this world, even through this? I really do like this direction, but for the moment, it's just, you know, I have very little time to properly think about it, because there's just so much happening, you know?
Because these are fantastic thoughts for the future, but here is reality.
Yes, but here we have a certain reality. And until you've addressed all the gaps in this reality, you're left with very little time to actually think. But they somehow, you know, these are the kinds of ideas. We come back from every single course, or from every training session, with some new idea. Because either we meet like-minded people, or we partner up with someone, or we, on the contrary, see that this didn't work for others, so it's better not to go in that direction. For now, we definitely want to preserve what we currently have. We want to preserve the team and the organization, and help those beneficiaries, those individuals who have already reached out to our organization. We want to continue providing them with support. Therefore, for the time being, these are the plans.
My wishes for the future, for this 25th year, from my heart, to all of us, Ukrainians.
I want to wish everyone love. Above all, love for yourselves, for your neighbors, for your surroundings, for your country. Overall, I believe that if there's a lot of it, as I mentioned, like I feel I have within me, then people will share it very generously. And from that, things will definitely get better.
Thank you so much for your kind wishes, and thank you so much for coming to visit us. You're truly wonderful. Please keep doing exactly what you're doing.
Thank you very much. It's truly a pleasure for me. That's all.
All right, give me 5.